Being a RuneScape player, I was always fascinated by Prifddinas and its elven architecture. 3 years ago, I built this city as a short film in Blender, focusing on modeling, texturing, and cinematics. Every single asset used unique textures, materials, and high poly meshes, since the end product was a film and I didn't have any real-time performance constraints. Zero optimizations, infinite confidence. Recently, I decided to rebuild the same city, this time in Unreal Engine, with a more production and game environment mindset. My objective? To explore various concepts around modularity, optimizations, look dev, and a system-driven environment. The first step was to create a texture atlas that would be shared across all the assets. I sculpted out the high poly details, baked it in Substance Painter, and created the textures. After this, I modeled a bunch of different buildings and then UV unwrapped them onto the texture atlas. One texture to rule them all. Since I baked in the normal details as well, I was able to get some pretty good detailed edges without the need of any extra geometry. Hopping into Unreal Engine, I created a quick landscape and painted in some textures. I fed this color data into a runtime virtual texture and used that as the albedo for the stylized grass. I also added some procedural moss on the rocks and added a static switch so that I had more control over where I wanted the moss to be. For the background landscape, I created this auto material that blends between three textures based on the slope and elevation. I decided to leave it there since this was only going to be a background element. All this looked great, but there was just something dystopian about the UE5 mannequin moving about in an Elven City. So I hopped back into Blender, created a custom Elven character, added on some textures, and back in Unreal Engine, I swapped out the mannequin with this Elven character using the IK retargeter tool. This took a lot of trial and error to get right. Currently, since there were no NPCs, the map felt a bit dead. I hopped into Niagara Systems and made some dynamic fog. To prevent it from looking like Vancouver, I allowed the user to control the intensity. I added a scratch module with an HLSL script with an exponential function. This made sure that the transition was non-linear and more dramatic. Apart from this, I also added in some wind effects, leaves, and some butterflies to keep the player company. Moving on to optimizations, I spent quite a lot of time troubleshooting with Unreal Insights. Since this was going to be a stylized scene, I decided to switch over to forward rendering. I wasn't relying on dynamic global illumination, and forward rendering just gave me more predictable lighting results, and it also handled translucency better. Since nanite wasn't supported, I set up LODs instead, the traditional way. This was great because it allowed me to explicitly define the performance budgets per asset. Finally, I added some post-processing which served as the unifying layer to bring together all the materials, textures, and art together. Being a photographer, I used my prior knowledge for some color grading, correction, LUTs, some subtle depth of field, and bloom to soften the highlights. Currently, I'm working on adding some interactive experiences like small quests for the player to complete throughout the map. I'm also playing around with sound effects and ambience to help with the immersion. And that is how you create an Elven City.